some of the best hair in YouTube that you'll ever see right there. And who else we got? Oracles and Beyond looking lovely tonight. And there's gorgeous Larry. Fapster's back, my main man Fapster. He'll be signing autographs after the show. He does not like eye contact, people. Does not like eye contact. So he'll be down the middle there. And who else do we have here? Mama Susan, good to see you. And there's Thurston Howell III. How's Lovey? Packwoman on Twitch, how are you? Thanks for coming on in. And, Mark Rademacher, thank you so much for that awesome super chat, man. Really do appreciate your love and support of our show, man. You're always there taking care of us. Really appreciate it. We only got a few seconds left here before we got to get going. Travis DeLuca, the lovely Deanna, how are you? Both of you, nice to see you. Beelzebrad, good to have you back, man. And where are we here? Sweet Donnie D. Betty Doublechick. I can never pronounce your name, but I'm so happy you're here. Thank you for joining us. There's the gorgeous Denise from Discovering Sasquatch. Who else am I missing here? I don't know. Nicola, nice to have you here. We're running out of time. Video game player gets the last one. Horns up. Let's rock. From the mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on TalkStream Live, Revolution Radio, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Go to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. You can follow us on Twitter @Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram, Spaced Out Radio Show. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot, reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire, and check out our swag. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by visiting Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. Oh, we got a good one for you tonight with Halloween approaching. Now, Alyson Ford, good Canadian kid, admits her love and fascination with the paranormal started at a young age when she would hear local ghost stories and felt compelled to learn more about them. She was inspired by Dr. Wynn, a parapsychologist from the University of Regina in Saskatchewan, to pursue study of paranormal phenomena after hearing his stories. She now lives and works out of a 100-year-old Victorian bank building in Milestone, Saskatchewan, with her husband, Matt Lay, who has one of the best beards in the paranormal. They run the Mudutu Effect, that focuses on science of the metaphysical and paranormal, debunking, and also coming up with new theories and practices to further the field of paranormal research. But the other part about it, too, is Alyson is one heck of a storyteller. And we're going to get all paranormal tonight with her, Alyson Ford. Thank you so much for joining us again on Spaced Out Radio. How are you, my friend?
I'm great. Thanks for having me on again. It's been a little bit, but
it has.
I'm excited to be here.
Well, you don't have the beard your husband does. And, we're kind of biased towards beards around here. We like a good beard. And, I'm not going to lie. I may have a beard crush on Matt.
You're not the only one.
I know. But honestly, I think you and Matt are two of the best people I have ever met in the paranormal field. And it's such a blessing to not only have you on the show to talk about your professionalism and your stories and your tales with us, but to have you guys as friends and supporters of Spaced Out Radio in the central part of Canada. We really do appreciate that. So thank you, and a lot of love from all of us to you guys.
Thank you so much for your support. It means a lot.
All right. You've been in the paranormal since you were a child. You are an intuitive. Mm-hmm. You are someone who has had communication with spirits, entities, and whatever else is out there in the ethereal land. What's it like growing up with those abilities?
A little bit lonely, maybe. I grew up in rural Saskatchewan, so there's not a lot going on besides people just telling their own ghost stories. And so when I did meet Professor Wynn from the University of Regina, it was kind of refreshing, and I was able to connect with him and get excited about something that I was really passionate about myself. Again, there wasn't a lot for literature around. When Ghost Stories of Saskatchewan came out, I'll hold up the book. Yep, that's, of course, people listening to the radio can't hear it or see it, but it's Joanne Christensen who published that book, and that would have been back in the 90s. Again, I was like in 14 and going into my teens. So, yeah, I would say it was a little bit lonely in the fact that, people didn't really readily talk about it. But we did have, local ghost stories, and it was always something I loved. So,
for you, as being someone who is intuitive and someone who loves a good ghost story, what kind of melds the two together? Do you like the stories, or do you like the research better?
I think they go hand in hand. I really do. Personally, I have been to places to do research that have had ghost stories come out of them. Again, when you are investigating, you kind of want to go in without expectation about what you may be, looking for. But a lot of times it's the stories that lead to the investigation. So I like both. I've read a lot of ghost stories that are based in some facts or some experiences, and that's what I tend to read on air, not so much the fictional ones. So I did, however, do a reading of one book, which is Government House, Ghosts of Government House, and that was written by Judith Silverthorne. She did a lot of research, but she also based that book off of the real ghosts at Government House. So again, I read the entire short novel on air, and it was great. It's a great little book. It is fictional, but the characters are based on real life dead characters, I guess.
You have a lot of fun with this, and you and your husband, Matt, have made the paranormal your lifelong adventure and career here. How have you guys been able to do that with the Mudutu Effect, considering that there's not a lot of people in this realm that are able to call the paranormal a career?
Well, I always sometimes joke and say it's an elaborate hobby, a very expensive, elaborate hobby. But we also do a lot of manufacturing here as well. We opened a small metaphysical store. So we get to craft and, we do everything from incense to candles and other, things for the store. And that helps pay the bills. We also bring in people to the classes. We do not charge for the classes. They are donation only. But we've had some generous donations, as well as people tend to come down to the shop and help us support us that way. So, yeah, it's, again, a very elaborate hobby. My husband has a day job and I've had a day job. But other than that, we put our heart and soul into the Mudutu Effect. It's basically our lives now. So
good for you. Good for you. Because a lot of people out there do not get to do what they want to do with their lives. But this has been something for both of you that you become so entrenched in central Canada, and your message is getting out really around the world with the Mudutu Effect and everything. Explain to our audience what the Mudutu Effect is all about.
Well, it's basically what we tell people. It's an idea. It is an idea. Mudutu is Sumerian for knowledge. So basically, in essence, it's the knowledge effect. And of course, we lean more towards learning about the occult and everything that comes with it. So magics, and then the paranormal research. So it was basically a bunch of us just kind of sitting around one day saying, hey, we should kind of start a collective of like-minded people. And then when we saw that this bank was for sale in Milestone, we thought, hey, why don't we make it like a real place to come to, brick and mortar? So again, it is brick and mortar. It's bricks from Claybank, Saskatchewan, and Tyndallstone from Tyndall, Manitoba. It's 5,000 square feet, and we live here. We live on the top floor. The middle floor is for events, for classes. People can rent the space out. We have actually a large occult library. There's a lot of occult publications that are not in print anymore. Some of them are actually worth quite a bit of money, but we do allow people to come in there during our store hours to do research and, come take a look at these books. Some of them you will not find anywhere else. We try to, get a lot of books from Anathema Publishing out of Montreal, and support as many people that we know. I mean, Michelle Bellinger, we have all of her books in our library as well. And we do take donations. So if you have some occult books and you're not too sure where to take them, or, your family doesn't want them anymore, please reach out to us. We'll take them, and they will be in a library. So yeah, we're very, very lucky to have the library. I mean, it's wonderful. I mean, there's a nice fireplace in there, and it used to be the manager's office when the bank was running. And so it's quite nice. And yeah.
For a lot of our American listeners, they don't know much about Canadian history or how haunted of a country this is. I mean, the prairie provinces have a little bit of everything. There was struggle and famine during the earlier times when the land was still being developed, mainly by us good Ukrainian kids. There's a railroad that kind of goes through. There's military history in that area. There's dinosaur history in that area going way back. How haunted is Saskatchewan?
Actually, quite haunted, I would say. Everywhere you go, there's a ghost story. There's, some buildings and small towns that are haunted, whether it's proven or not, but also areas that are haunted. Like we have the St. Louis Ghost Train, which is a really good ghost story. I might read that one tonight as well. And that's an ongoing phenomenon that no one has been able to explain, and it's been researched. All the way up, Saskatoon. They've had the Western Development Museum there, quite famously haunted. Again, the Government House in Regina, quite famously haunted. And it does seem to be haunted by people that have come here, immigrants, like it would be Government House. One of the famous ghosts there actually was an immigrant from China and immigrated here. So, I haven't heard a lot of the First Nations ghost stories, other than some tales about how they have different spirits that are on the land. I wouldn't call that a haunting per se, but they do believe in fairies and different entities like that. So again, I guess that would fall under the paranormal, not quite the haunting realm. Quite fascinating though, really fascinating. And at one time we were actually able to encounter that. So really fortunate. But yeah, there's stories everywhere, and especially when they hear that you are into the paranormal and you kind of your whole life is about it, people are really anxious and excited to share their stories with you because you listen and without judgment. And again, I enjoy it immensely. I tuck them in the back of my head, and maybe I'll write a book one day.
Do you recall your first haunted story?
Yeah, actually, I think my first haunted story would have been growing up in small town Gray. My dad, again, was very influential on my paranormal excitement, and he would take me out to different farm sites and tell me the stories about them. One of the farm sites was an old dilapidated house and some buildings that had fallen down. Looks like pretty much any old farm site in Saskatchewan. But he would say, the story was the farmer that lived there him and his family. He actually was also a scientist, and he worked to develop the hydrogen bomb back in whenever that was. And excuse me, they, I guess, shortly after he came back from doing that development, he actually ended up hanging himself on the property. And his wife basically went out, locked the door, and they all left that house, and they just left it exactly how it was. My dad ended up breaking in there later with some friends to snoop around in the house, and he said it was just amazing that everything was just covered in a layer of dust. And I mean, there's food in the pantry that was, obviously long gone, but the tins and everything were there. Candies in the candy dish, unfolded newspapers on the table. And he said that he did feel quite eerie in there, and maybe it's the surroundings, obviously, but he said he felt the cold spots. And so that was something that always kind of stuck with me, that, when I went on a paranormal investigation, and it's true that you do all of a sudden step into these cold spots, and it's quite fascinating. The other story about to come out there is that this farmer actually haunts that yard, that the structure that he hung himself in actually was the first structure to actually fall to the ground. Again, not sure if it's really paranormal, but it makes for a really good story. So a lot of times, mostly on Halloween night, we'd actually take off, go out there and sit and, oh, do you see a light, or do you see a guy? Or, we get really excited about it. So that was one of the first stories I think I got really excited about.
Have you ever been scared? Do you still get scared?
On investigation?
Sure.
I would say no. I don't get scared on investigation, just for the fact that my brain kind of clicks into investigation mode. And I mean, I've been startled a few times, maybe just caught off guard. Mostly it's usually by somebody that's not dead. So other than that, I don't think there's nothing really too much that's scares me anymore. Maybe I'm a little on edge when it comes to UFO phenomenon. I'm trying to collect stories from around here, and that is something that really does make me a little bit uneasy. I've had my own experience, and I've heard other experiences around here as well. But I mean, we're so flat. It's like the best place to see UFOs. There's nowhere for them to hide. But apparently in my situation, when I experienced my sighting, the ships can actually go down and not up. So I don't really understand it myself. I have no explanation, but I'm starting to warm up to the idea, kind of wanting to do more research about it. I think it's just for the fact that, to me, they're a little bit more, I don't want to say more real, because ghosts are, they are real, and spirits are real, and there's so many different types of entities that are real. But I think it's just knowing that they're so intelligent that they're able to do all these things that, looking at people on Earth and how kind of horrible the human race is a lot of the time, I think that's kind of terrifying, because to me, it's like, are we like an ant to them? I don't know. I guess that's what kind of scares me at night. My husband actually jokes around sometimes, and he, puts like pictures of gray aliens out for me, or he had a mask with gray. Was it? Yeah. I don't know.
That's my man, Matt. That's my man, Matt,
yeah.
right there. You know what? Here's what I'm thinking. And it's funny, because as you're talking about this, I'm actually, Merle messaged me. Merle and I are going to road trip out to you guys, so you can take us ghost hunting in your building and everywhere around, and then I'll teach you about the UFOs and aliens.
That would be great. I would love that. I would love to learn more about the aliens and the theories and everything out there. And again, our building has actually had some activity, and it seems to be ramping up. So, I mean, it's kind of that time of the year. The veils are thinner, and it's actually really just become part of our lives as well.
Beautiful.
So
Beautiful. We got 5 minutes to go before we got to go to break at the
Okay.
bottom of the hour here. And for you, as you collect the stories and you kind of go over the stories of everything that you like, what type of story do you appreciate, or what kind of encounters do you appreciate with the paranormal?
I kind of like the stories. Like, one of my favorites is Government House. All the different spirits there, especially if it's a location that has multiple spirits in it. I always wonder, like, do these spirits actually, are they able to interact with each other because they are there from, different times of, whether they crossed over there or not. But, one might be from 1963. The other one might be there from 1912. Like, are they able to actually interact with each other? I find that fascinating. For the most part, yeah, it's just, I would say mostly those types of stories, with the multiple ghosts in it. One ghost is fine. That's great. But to have multiple stories going on in one location, I find that really fascinating.
Do you look at yourself as a paranormal investigator, or do you look at yourself as a researcher of the unknown?
I would say both. And I like to bring, my ideas and theories of the occult into the research as well. It's, I think, again, they call it occult sciences for a reason. I think they can go hand in hand. But yeah, I really do like the research. That is everything. I want to know. I just want to know. But unfortunately, it does lead to more questions. But that's just the nature of the beast. And, I love what we do here. And I love working with my husband and developing new theories and testing out new theories. And there's nights that we just sit here and say, well, what could we do to, test this theory out and work with each other and bounce ideas off of each other. And it's great. Like, I really enjoy that part. And
how do you guys sleep, though?
How do we sleep?
Considering that, this is exciting stuff. And when you test something out, like, I don't know if Matt or you were like me, but I could be lying in bed, half asleep, and then all of a sudden I'll get an idea, and bam, I'm awake, and I'm like wide awake, and I got to do this right now.
Well, we joke because, it's not really a joke, but in a way it is, because our daughter actually this summer was diagnosed with ADHD. And the funny thing is that we've been finding out that we have a lot of these traits ourselves. And so we don't get a lot of sleep sometimes. I think Matt sleeps less than I do. He's a little bit more impulsive that way. But yeah, there's times that you just have to get up and you have to look something up, or it will bug you and you will not be able to sleep.
Just goes with the territory. Now,
it does, absolutely.
Now, tonight you're going to be sharing some paranormal stories with us from your area and others that you have heard and experienced over time. What should our audience be prepared for?
I think I'm going to start out by reading the Ghost in Government House. I can elaborate a little bit on that one. Maybe give you some ideas of what I think might be happening. And then I think I will do the St. Louis Ghost Train story as well. That one is extremely fascinating to me, as it has been heavily researched, and they still cannot come up with any idea of what it is, and it still happens today. So, if you ever take the trek out to St. Louis, Saskatchewan, there's a good chance that you can actually experience the ghost light.
And how far is that from you?
Ooh, it's a couple hours at least, maybe 2.5 hours away.
Well, the good part about it is you'll still be able to see us, since it's so flat over there. So that's all right. At least we won't get lost.
You're not wrong.
I would. You know what? Merle and I are going to plan something for the spring of 2022, and we're going to come there. I want to see that ghost train. I totally want to see that ghost train. So you're going to have to be you and Matt will have to be our tour guides. Alyson Ford, everybody, from the Mudutu Effect. When we come back from the break here at the bottom of the hour, ghost stories. Hey, it's Halloween time. What better than some ghost stories right here on Spaced Out Radio? Alyson Ford. She's a storyteller, psychic, paranormal investigator. We're loving this one tonight. In for a good time, not a long time, here on the mighty SOR. Let's get to some haunted stories next. Before we get going here, I just want to say a big congratulations to Spaced Out Radio, as we are now Eric with a K's third favorite show. We've gone up. We were number 4 last week, but we put on a strong week last week, and we've jumped to number 3. We're number 3 in Eric with a K's books now. We're number 3, so I'm pretty happy about that. Hey, Eric with a K in the chat room, good to see you. Cecil, nice to have you back. And who else is here? Mickle in a pickle. How's your pickle toes, man? Oh, man. You should see the state of my meaty toes today, Dave. Even make a billy goat chuck a little. Oh, my God. That is awesome. That is so awesome. All right. We got about 4 minutes, Alyson. G West, thank you so much for that super chat. Appreciate that. Chris Mo in Austria. Howard S., how are you? Jerry O'Brien, everyone. The Jerry O'Brien. Smoky Mountain Wanderer, good to see you. I'm excited about ghost stories, man. Very excited. I have a team that you guys need to work with in Saskatchewan, by the way. A couple of twin sisters. They're up in Davidson.
Oh, that's not too far from
here. Yeah.
That's not far from here at all.
Yeah.
That's what you're talking about.
You do?
Mm-hmm.
Who is it?
Krista and Kara Alexander, or Krista McIver and Kara Alexander.
Cool.
They're pretty brilliant ladies.
Yeah, they actually came to my magic and occult class.
Oh, did they?
Yeah.
Well, that's cool. Yeah, you got to work with them. They're good people.
Nice.
Yeah, they're really nice.
Hi, Zune. How you doing, man? Your hair does look good tonight, Alyson.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome. Now, Matt, do you want to come over and show us that beautiful beard during the break here? Project Blue Book, good to see you. The gorgeous Ivy Smith. Look at the beard, people. Look at that. Isn't that nice? Isn't that nice?
It needs to be combed.
No, it doesn't. I have a beard crush on Matt, people. I'm not going to lie. And I'm going to bring him some Mighty Moose beard oil, too.
Yeah, you have to stay at the bank. We have a guest room, and
I'm not sleeping with Merle, man. I'm not sleeping with Merle. I'm just telling you. The Quick, good to see you. Chris Burrows, welcome to our chat room.
You can stay at the haunted hotel in town.
I'll stay at the haunted hotel.
Okay.
Yeah. Give me the most haunted room.
I don't know what the haunted room is, but the 3rd floor is quite haunted. That's where we take the students on their, basically their field study is at that location. We were there yesterday? Yesterday, yeah.
Very nice. Very nice. Mickle in a Pickle says, pat the beard. Oh, yeah, pat the beard. Mm-hmm. It's beautiful.
That wasn't my beard.
Oh, we heard it. We heard it. I love you guys. Love you guys.
I'll go back to my silent mode.
That was funny. Yeah, it's been picking up here. Had a few things happen yesterday, even yesterday morning. I was down on the lower level and I heard footsteps coming down the stairs, and I thought maybe somebody had just walked into the building to come to the store early, and I just looked around the corner, and yep, nobody there.
Beautiful. Beautiful. I like
normal.
Love when that stuff happens. Love it.
We do have one that in the main hall area that kind of, if you're standing, we have a coffee spot on the one side of the wall that we can have coffee and tea and whatever. And when you go there and you're standing and making coffee, it feels like something's rushing like right behind you. But which I find funny because there's some things that we've caught on camera that would kind of facilitate that idea of some type of spirit that's...
Hold on one second, Alyson. Big thank you to G West, Spooky, Mark, Ann, and Tim for the amazing super chats. It's a great way to support what we do on a nightly basis here on SOR. Here we go, the second half hour, everyone. Second half hour of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. Really do appreciate earning your listening ears. Want to remind you that if you miss portions of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Get some swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram, Spaced Out Radio Show. We continue on tonight. It is story time for Halloween as paranormal investigator, researcher, and all-around nice Canadian kid, Alyson Ford is with us to tell us the stories of the haunted. And now we are back. And Alyson, welcome back to the show.
Thank you.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. All right. Our first story that you're going to share with us tonight, you're going to creep us out a little bit. What's it all about?
Well, the story is entitled The Ghost in Government House. So here's a little background on Government House. Government House in Regina was built in 1881. It has the distinction of being one of the few remaining territorial government buildings. In its long lifetime, it has served as a residence for the lieutenant governors of the Northwest Territories and, after 1905, of Saskatchewan. Following the Second World War, financial woes contributed to the building's transformation to a veterans hospital under the new name of Saskatchewan House. 20 years later, it provided a shared home for community college, Little Theatre, and the Arts Board. Today, Government House has reverted to fulfilling its original purpose. Although it is no longer used as a residence, the grand building once again houses the offices of the Lieutenant Governor. And if you ask the right people, you'll find that it provides one other important service. It is home to a ghost. So I'll just jump into the story.
All right.
Every October in Regina, troops of school children make their way to Government House for an hour of speculation and fun. It's Halloween with Howie, an inspired program that captures the kids' imagination while sneaking in a little history lesson in the sly. Oh, sorry. Howie, as he is known, is a legendary ghost of Government House. Children are entertained by videotaped reports of his antics, then taken on a tour of the house, stopping at points where spooky incidences have taken place. Afterward, there are ghostly word games to play and an opportunity to make a Howie lolly out of lollipop and a tissue. It may sound like a tame concoction of seasonal entertainment for the children, but there are many who swear that Howie is real. He has a reputation for mischief, but has never truly frightened anyone, seeming to be the spectral equivalent of a big, friendly, toothless dog, completely lovable and a threat to no one. Staff members who have worked nights at Government House claim that Howie likes to make the presence known in a number of ways. Toilets will flush quite autonomously when the hour is late. If you use the rear stairway, it is said that there is a strong sense of someone being there with you. Doors have been seen unlatching and swinging open, and it has become routine to have something disappear from its place only to reappear days later. Keeping track of Howie's pranks is the only part of the fun. However, in a building that boasts the dramatic history of Government House, it is equally intriguing to speculate about the Phantom's identity. In a Halloween with Howie teacher's guide, Bob Burke, a former historian for Government House heritage property, shares some of his theories. Burke felt that Howie might have been a previous governor who had taken out a spectral lease on his former residence. Perhaps he is one of the many soldiers who was there after the war, and considering the possibility that Howie could be a female, he wondered if they weren't dealing with the spirit of a former chambermaid. That would explain the occasional unexplained spots of cleaning and polishing that have been found around the house. And the most widely accepted explanation, however, concerns a Chinese cook named Chun, who worked for Lieutenant Governor Archibald McNabb in the 1940s. Chun contracted pneumonia while in the residence and died in the back bedroom of the house. It wasn't long after that the staff began hearing the whispery sounds of Chun's slippers roaming about the servants' quarters at night. No matter who Howie was in the earthly existence, in his spiritual form, he has become a beloved fixture at Government House. Bob Burke is a Halloween with Howie teacher guide, expressed the sentiment best. We have become accustomed to his mischievousness and rather enjoy them. Howie has entered our lives and made a permanent place in our hearts. If one day Howie were to depart for other realms, Government House would never quite be the same. Something wonderful would have passed from our lives. And so, Saskatchewan's best-loved ghost continues to live the high life in the stately mansion that is Government House. Wow. So in this particular story, they're actually saying that all these occurrences are attributed to one ghost. This is back in the 90s, and I know that there have been other people in there that have, gathered stories. I guess, Judith Silverthorne as well. She spent quite a bit of time there while she was writing her book, Ghosts of Government House. And the Howie name, they're actually really kind of said that it would be Chun. And Chun Lee, actually his last name is Lee, sorry. And they believe it's him. And the reason why they call him Howie is because something would happen and somebody would say, well, how'd they do that? Or how you do that? So it kind of turned into Howie. And that was kind of the nickname. But there's been also other specters seen there as well. There's a governess with a long skirt and the Victorian blouse, was probably one of the governesses for the residents when one of the lieutenant governors was there. There's also, they say it was turned into a war, post-war facility for soldiers coming back. People have actually seen a soldier dressed, in kind of like hospital attire, but sitting in a wheelchair. Also, it's funny that they didn't talk about one of the most famous ghosts at Government House, and it's actually a monkey, if you can believe it, a ghost monkey. So, this ghost monkey, I guess one of the lieutenant governors actually had a monkey as a pet, and apparently some people have seen the monkey. They've seen it kind of swinging from, there's a large rotunda area, and they've seen this monkey moving about. They also had a little rocking horse made for the monkey, and that rocking horse has actually been seen to move back and forth. There's also been a ghost of a little boy in one of the areas that was for children. Back in the day when the governor had their children with them, there was only actually 2 rooms in the entire mansion that these kids could actually be. So they actually lived their lives in 2 rooms. And I mean, it sounds crazy, but again, this is a place where a lot of things were going on. It was a governor's residence. There was a lot of business going on. So, back then, especially, kids were kind of out of sight, and that's kind of where they stayed. So maybe this child got attached to that area. There wasn't any reports of a child passing. There's also been reports of a caretaker that has seen going into the basement area and as well out in, they have a really beautiful conservatory and seen out in that area as well. And some people asked, well, why is this, guy going down to the basement? Because he's a person that would take care of the grounds. But apparently there was they grew mushrooms like to eat, not the funky kind that I know of, but
never know.
But yeah, there was, there's quite a few ghosts in that one residence. Again, kind of from different times. So it makes you wonder, are they able to actually communicate with each other? Do they know of each other? Are they kind of in their own worlds? I actually have seen Chun-Li is actually buried in Regina, the oldest cemetery that we have in Regina. It's kind of a tragic story. He did die of pneumonia, and he wasn't able to bring his family over. It was a really hard time for the Chinese people back then. They had to make a lot of money to bring their loved ones over, and it didn't happen. But I find it fascinating that he must have really enjoyed his time there, that he's actually maybe chosen to stay. Again, with my research, I more or less believe that it's not always a tragedy that people are bound to an area after they leave their bodies. I think a lot of it, I think we still have free will after we pass. And so a lot of times places are haunted, but it's maybe because people really enjoyed being there. So again, maybe Chun-Li really enjoyed being at Government House. He was actually quite a well-known chef. People would actually come, quite prominent people would come just to have a meal that he'd prepared. So he's very well respected. So yeah, that's kind of Government House in a nutshell. But you can, if you ever come to Regina, Saskatchewan, you can actually tour Government House. I think it's only a few dollars to get in or something, but it's definitely worth it. It does have that eerie kind of sense to it. Like it feels kind of being able to pick up on energies. I do feel some things. And again, with the psychometry, I'm able to kind of have snapshots about what actually things look like. And it's kind of weird because I've been going there since I was a child. But sometimes I'd look at, a room and the way it was arranged, but it didn't quite look right to me. Like it's like, oh, okay, well the desk is there, but there was no desk there. Or, so I've kind of compared it over the years to what was, what that room could have looked like from just the images that I pick up myself.
That is amazing. That is absolutely amazing. That the fact that this beautiful immigrant man who would come in and help in such a prominent place would decide to stick around for his love of the building and his love of everything that the area gave him. I mean, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, well, I think too, it became his family as well. Like his family was in China, and he never actually did see them again, which is quite sad. But yeah, I think he must have enjoyed his time there, and because there was, he did pass away on the property. He did. That is definitely recorded. But again, I'm all about the free will thing, so.
Very cool. Very cool. Alyson Ford here tonight on Spaced Out Radio telling us some paranormal stories. And, I can tell you right now at the top of the break, I'm heading outside because apparently there is one hell of a Northern Lights show going on outside my studio right now.
All of my friends on Facebook are posting, go out with your cameras.
Yes, I know. I'm getting that
beautiful.
here too. And I'm like, oh, why am I in the lights? Well, that's all right. Some of us have to work for a living, damn it. Even if it costs us a view of the Northern Lights. But that's okay. I'll try and get some pictures for our listeners coming up here in, well, we'll have a few minutes here coming on up. But nonetheless, when it comes to ghosts, why do you think they stick around like this, Chun?
Again, it's a few things, and whether it's a ghost or not, we're still trying to figure that out. I mean, nobody can really tell you, what is a ghost exactly. Like, what is a ghost made out of? Why are they in certain areas at certain times? There's a lot of theories around there, and we're, still trying to find out ways of testing that or coming up with, different theories about that. But I think it's a lot of, if you really love that place and if you did have free will after you crossed over, hey, like maybe I would go spend time in, it was Germany. I love Germany. Go spend time there for a bit. Spend time with loved ones. Spend time in these certain areas. I don't know. I've never actually had a ghost or, a spirit ever say on like an SB11 or said with a, on a voice recorder, an EVP or something that I've heard with my own ears ever say, help me, I'm trapped here. I've never heard that ever. And I mean, we've done a lot of research. I think most of the time it's just they want to communicate. And if they're in a place where they feel like they can communicate, and some people are just able to communicate better than others. So,
well, I can tell you this. I'm either going to a hockey rink or an amusement park where I could ride the roller coaster over and over and over again. It's one thing I don't talk about a lot. I have an absolute roller coaster addiction.
I love roller coasters too.
Yes. So I don't know where I'm going. Or my favorite fishing hole. One of those.
Also, too, a lot of places that have, a lot of people coming to them, like theaters, hotels, bars, restaurants. A lot of times they are maybe more haunted than residences, just for the fact that I think, the spirits, they feed off of that energy. They feed off of the energy of the people that are coming into the building. I do kind of have something to support that. The Milestone Hotel here in town, we've done quite a bit of research there over the years. We've been in there quite a few times. I don't even know how many times we've been there now, but we were there when it was running as a hotel and a bar, and it was quite active. And then it shut down for a few years. And the owner of the hotel actually reached out to us and said, hey, did you want to come and investigate the hotel again? And of course we did, because we'd love to have the opportunity to go in there again. But it was so bizarre because that when we'd gone in there, it was so quiet. It was just almost like just deathly void of anything. And I thought, well, have they all left? Have they all gone on? Like, because there's nobody here to, feed off that energy, to have that interaction with. But then family came in and bought the property. They've started running the bar again and the restaurant, not the hotel part, but, again, it's bustling with people. And we went up, yesterday on Sunday, we took our students up there to do some field work, and it was quite active. Like, we caught a lot of evidence that night. So I'm thinking again, maybe it could just be the right time, right place. But I do really have that theory that places that are, like the theaters and places that have people, I think, again, if you're in spirit form, it'd be nice to be around other people. Unless, I guess, maybe in life you're quite the loner and you really hated people.
I'll just keep quiet there. But, I can see that, and I can appreciate that. But, I understand that some spirits can be stuck whether it's for no reason or not. At least that's what we believe or perceive. And then some can choose, due to free will, to kind of be where they want to be. And I'm just curious. Weird stuff going on right now. I'm just curious.
Solar flares.
Well, if you look in, and this isn't for our radio people, if you, at least I'm seeing it on my YouTube side here, where there's flashing going on. I don't know where that flashing is coming from. Like right there.
Oh yeah, like a red light.
Yeah, but the problem is I have no lights on.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Those are my only lights. Right there and right over there. And I don't know
why. You don't have a cell phone or anything over there? No.
No, my cell phone is right here and it's dark.
Interesting.
Yeah, so...
Nice screensaver, by the way.
Yeah, That's Carl.
That's a hard no for me.
That's Carl. You'll get to know Carl a little bit here. But who knows? Maybe it's the Northern Lights coming through. I don't know. But that would be kind of cool. But nonetheless, I'm sorry, I'm a little tripped out over that. It's like there's a beacon flashing over here, and I cannot figure out what it is because...
Yeah, I've seen it as well.
There's nobody here. There's nobody here. Oh, well. Move on. Move on. We'll just count the flashes from now on. Because first time I've noticed that. But moving on here. With spirits who have their free will and spirits who have, maybe they're stuck for some, reason. What is the difference between being stuck and having your free will because you want to be here?
I think with having the free will, I think most of them do. And maybe being stuck is just, something that they've actually made themselves stuck because they may have, things that they need to take care of. They need to share their story, or maybe it's, something that they're punishing themselves for, but they're, making themselves stay there for that reason. Again, I'm not really a medium, so I'm not really sure. But again, I think they are stuck, but I think they can make themselves stuck. So.
Yeah. Okay, so how can they make themselves stuck? Is that just by guilt?
I think so. I really do. I think it could be guilt. Maybe that something that they had done in their lives. Or maybe it's just the fact that they weren't able to communicate with the living about something that they needed the living to know. Because there's a lot of times where we have investigated places and it was just strictly for the fact that we went in there, talked with the entity, and, the people contacted us later and were like, it's not here anymore. It may be just the simple fact of I left my ring in a drawer upstairs and that's all they needed to do. And now they can move on. So again, doing the paranormal research, our biggest, we want to open a line of communication. That is basically our goal. And whether it's, communication between us or communication with the people that live there, that is our goal. And that's how we learn. And that's, a lot of times even just opening that line of communication puts people at ease. And again, I'm thinking it'd probably be the same thing for spirit. If they know that they are actually getting listened to at this point, maybe it helps them to move on.
30 seconds or less. Does spirit want to communicate with us? Or are we just part of the game?
I believe so. I would say 9 times out of 10, they do want to communicate. Again, that's kind of basically a human construct is you really do want to be around other humans and you do want to communicate with other humans. So carrying on into the spirit world, I would believe so. We have encountered some spirits that do not want to talk or they just basically want to get rid of you in any way they can by being creepy or, making noises and that type of thing. But I think a lot of times it really just is harmless wanting to communicate.
All right, on that note, Alyson, I'm going to get you to hold on right there because we are going to go to break here at the top of the hour. Spooky Ghost Stories with Alyson Ford will continue from Saskatchewan right after this. And if you're lucky, Alyson will go to the window and she'll wave so the rest of North America can see her. Even us on top of the mountains can get a good view of her waving. It's flat over there. She'll even show off Matt's beard. I'm going to go check out the Northern Lights. You guys hang on. Space Out Radio's Hour 2 will come back right after this. All right, I'm going to step away for a couple seconds. I'm going to put your mic on mute, okay?
You bet.
All right, be right back, people. I'm going to go find them Northern Light thingies. The northern lights are really, really faint. Really faint. I'll try and bring them up here for people. I took a couple of pictures. See if we can see them here. All right. Let me go over here. Can you see them? Barely.
So with the northern lights, do you find that there's more UFO activity or less during northern lights?
I don't know. So you can just barely make out the green, but if I zoom it in, hold on a second here. That one's not too bad. See if I can get them in here. We got, oh shit, we only got about 30 seconds. Let me see here. It's tough. Quickly, a big thank you to G. West, Spooky, Mark, Ann, and Tim for the awesome super chats. It's a great way to support what we do here on a nightly basis. Thank you to all the veterans who are tuning us in. We absolutely love you and appreciate each and every thing that you have done for us. And, of course, all our regulars here, we're having a fun night tonight. We'll talk right here. Here we go.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show.
Hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio is underway tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We really do appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Want to say hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America and digitally on TalkStream Live, Revolution Radio, and KPNL. All of our archives are free by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Nebulaphobia. Nebulaphobia is your password. Use it wisely, space travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram, Spaced Out Radio Show. We continue on Spooky Stories with Alyson Ford. She's a paranormal investigator out of the beautiful province of Saskatchewan. She's very much involved in the paranormal with her husband, Matt Lay, and they own a company called the Mudutu Effect. And we're going to get right back to Alyson here. Hi, Alyson. How you doing?
Hello.
Good
I'm
to see
good.
you. Good to see you. What's the next story you got warmed up for us?
I'd like to read, this is about the Moosehead, it's called, in Kenosee Lake, Saskatchewan.
So Canadian. The Moosehead.
The most, Canadian name of a bar you could pretty much, The reason why I'd like to bring it up is because, unfortunately, in September, I think it was actually September 11th, that the bar actually burned to the ground. And it actually gained quite a bit of attention over the years, not only in Canada, but also internationally, because so many things had happened there, not just to the people that own it, but also to people that would actually come to the bar. So Saskatoon, nothing funny there. Oh, I'm sure there's a lot of really good stories I could find about Saskatoon. But I would go, the Kenosee Lake, the Moosehead there, again, over the years, lots of things have happened. whether doors slamming, people would go into the bathrooms there. I know I've had my cousin had gone into the women's bathroom there, and she experienced having doors slamming, and she's very much a skeptic. So, again, she she was drinking. I'm not going to say, but it was something that kind of stuck with her. And with researching all the multiple stories about the Moosehead, I found that was one of the things that was recorded by multiple people. So I'm just going to jump into the story here, if that's all right.
Works for me.
Yeah, it's called Things That Go Bump in the Night. Nestled on the southeastern edge of Moose Mountain Provincial Park, Kenosi Lake is a popular summer resort with impressive scenery, good fishing, and great campsites. And for those who are looking for some otherworldly entertainment, it's also said to have a haunted nightclub. For more than 10 years now, folks have been talking about the spooky things that have happened at the Moosehead Inn, a former dance hall that was once a favorite hangout for teenagers. In 1990, Estevan resident Dale Orsted bought the inn and decided to fix it up a little. But he'd only had the place a few months when he started noticing that things like ashtrays, cutlery, glasses, and figurines were disappearing at an unusual rate. At first, Orsted thought a few customers or staff members might be suffering from a bad case of sticky fingers. But the missing items started showing up again, often in the weirdest places. Then the loud noises started. Banging on the locked front door, thumping on the floors. The racket could last for hours. Frustrated and frightened, Orsted called the police, but they couldn't figure out who or what was causing it. In 1992, things went from bad to worse. One night, after the last customer had left, Orsted and a friend began ripping up some smelly old carpet. Almost immediately, the noises started up again, this time louder than ever. Sounds of large metal objects crashing into each other were so loud they nearly shattered the window panes. The ear-splitting, nerve-jarring clanging and banging went on all week, night after night, until all the new carpeting was installed. Until then, Orsted had laughed whenever anyone suggested his place might be haunted. After that harrowing week, he found himself, against his better judgment, agreeing with them. The presence of a ghost could also explain other things that started happening at the Moosehead. The lights flickered several times a night, the dishwasher turned on by itself, a pail flew across the dance floor, and locked security doors suddenly crashed open and slammed shut. Patrons were excited to be around when some of these things happened, but they were a little nervous too. So was Orsted. He'd been living at the inn since he bought it, but for 2 years in the mid-1990s he moved back to Estevan, commuting to work each day just so he can get a break from all the stress he felt at the Kenosi Lake. As word about the Moosehead's trouble spread, Canadian and American TV crews showed up to film the story of the haunted inn, and investigative reporters also wrote about the creepy incidents experienced by Orsted, his girlfriend, his buddies, and servers working there. A psychic who read about the haunting phoned Orsted and told him his renovations to the place had probably upset the original owner, Archibald Grandison. She said that the old gentleman's spirit was most likely the source of the mournful moaning around Orsted had started hearing when he began ripping out the floor. Finally, Orsted decided to take an if you can't beat 'em, join 'em approach to his weird predicament. He came up with the idea of hosting a psychic fair at the inn. Several people interested in ghosts and the paranormal showed up for this fair, which turned out to be quite an entertaining event for the whole town. During the fair, Orsted took part in a special gathering or séance organized by a psychic who said she detected 3 separate ghosts at the inn. She claimed she was able to convince 2 of them, a cleaning woman and a teenage boy who had drowned, to leave, But a third, an older man, who may have been Archibald Grandison, seemed determined to stay around until he was certain his widow was being well cared for. Mrs. Grandison was Orsted's next-door neighbor. He liked the elderly lady and was already keeping a friendly eye on her, so he didn't mind all of the making more of an effort to look after her. As soon as he started doing that, the number of spooky incidences decreased dramatically. In 1999, when Mrs. Grandison died, the ghost and Orsted finally found peace. After this story was written and continuing on actually into the 2000s, there had been more things happening. So it wasn't the end of the story. Apparently, some people thought that part of the inn, it was the building in Saskatchewan. We do this a lot. We'll take different pieces from different buildings and make other buildings. And part of the Kenosi Inn actually had a piece of an old church. And I guess the story goes that one of the ministers that had been at that church had actually hung himself in the bell tower. And some people were saying that, well, maybe it's the ghost of this priest that is roaming in the Moosehead. Another theory, I guess, was outside of the area, not too far away, there was a car crash. There was a group of teenagers that had left the Moosehead, and unfortunately there was an accident, and a couple of them were actually killed. And reportedly at the Moosehead, they would actually hear, it was almost like the loudest screeching. I mean, if you've actually heard a car accident happen, it's quite a jarring scratching of metal, like very, very loud. It sounds almost like an egg breaking, but like a million times louder. And so the only thing that they could actually think that would cause that sound was actually a metal table that they actually would pull up and down and drop it and see if they could. So, I mean, it is possible that maybe whatever was there might be moving this metal table of some kind, but some people thought maybe the ghosts that were there were of this car crash and maybe making that sound. So there was still quite a few things that would happen. The bathroom doors going on their own, that would happen still. I think definitely maybe Mr. Grandison was there. Seeing somebody rip up his work, his life's work. I mean, that tends to set off a lot of ghost stories is when you start doing renovations. So that could definitely be a possibility. But yeah, unfortunately it did burn to the ground, and it was quite sad. I know we kind of reached out with the paranormal community and, shared our stories about being there. Unfortunately, I had never had the chance to investigate there. And of course now it's too late, but, Knights of the Dark, another group that's out of Saskatchewan, great group of guys. They've been there. I don't think they said they caught much for evidence. But they had spent time there as well. But it's always sad to lose those places that have that, especially the paranormal history behind them. And, who knows, like everyone wonders, well, what happens to the ghosts when the building burns down to the ground? It's hard to say, but I guess maybe it's something to take a look at. Maybe once, we're headed into fall, it's getting a little late, but maybe next summer go by and check out the area and see if anyone's reported anything, or bring some equipment out there, maybe try to catch some EVPs. It's worth a look.
Now, one of the interesting stories you have that you talked about earlier in the show was about these mystery railroad lights.
Yeah, this one's really intriguing. This one is from St. Louis, Saskatchewan, and this has been going on for a really long time. Multiple people reported it. I've actually had friends that have gone out there and seen this phenomenon. I haven't gone out there yet myself. That's terrible to say, but it's on my bucket list. I'll get out there eventually. but it's a fascinating story. So I'll just jump in and tell the story and
Perfect.
give a little insight into what might be going on.
We got 10 minutes, so we got lots of time.
Okay. It's called The Dead Lights, St. Louis, Saskatchewan. St. Louis, Saskatchewan is a small town with a big story to tell. Located about 40 kilometers south of Prince Albert, it's the place to go if you want to hear about and maybe even see the St. Louis light. The ghostly light has been appearing just north of St. Louis for more than 80 years. It shows up often enough that some locals take house guests out for a midnight drive just to get a glimpse of it. The light rarely lets them down. Young people go out to wait for it too, just for the fun of it. Sometimes, though, seeing it can be more frightening than funny. Saskatoon residents Sergei and Gail Garreau thought it would be entertaining to take friends visiting from Alberta to see the famous light. They arrived in St. Louis about an hour before midnight and parked outside the town beside the old railway tracks that hadn't been used for years. There was a chill in the air, so they stayed in the car, chatting and waiting. After about an hour, they were ready to head back to Saskatoon. Then it happened. First, the light appeared as a small white circle, but then it grew a little larger and brighter, and it seemed to get closer and closer. Beneath the white light, there was a smaller red one. Amazed, the four friends stayed in the car and watched the lights for more than an hour. It still seemed as though the beams were getting closer, but they never actually did. So Sergei and his buddy decided to go towards them and check them out. They started the car and edged out onto a bumpy dirt road that ran beside the old railway line. After they'd been driving for a few minutes, the light suddenly went out. But just a few seconds later, an eerie glow filled the car. All four turned around and, to their horror, saw that the light was now behind them, and it was much too close for comfort. Amid shrieks and shouts to get out of there, Garreau sped back toward the main road at top speed. As they drove away, they could see that light was gone again. Documentary filmmakers, a university professor, and even a mayor of St. Louis, Amelia Lucier, have all gone on record as having seen the light. Distant headlights have been offered as one explanation for its fairly regular appearance, but Lucier said experts investigated and rejected that possibility. Besides, people have been seeing the light as far back as the 1920s, when hardly anyone in the area owned a car. But trains were still running past St. Louis then, and some locals recall a story about a tragic accident on the tracks near the town. Details are vague, but the story has a worker carrying a lantern as he walked along the tracks checking for loose rails. The unfortunate man was struck by a locomotive, and the blow was so powerful that it ripped off his head. The train tracks were pulled up years ago, but some people believe that horrifying death scene is still being played out every time the light appears. The white light is the headlight of the engine that hit the man, and the smaller red light is the lantern he was holding when it sent him to his death. So, I mean, I kind of look at it both ways, but the little red light doesn't always show up. When I've investigated some of these other stories, I think maybe the light could also just be a residual haunting, per se. This time capsule of whatever, the environment facilitates this phenomenon to happen, that maybe because the train had been going by there for so many years and it was just kind of, ingrained into time. I mean, that could be a possibility. The red light, again, doesn't show up all the time, but I have had multiple stories about the St. Louis, ghost train accompanied with the red light. And they have brought up the fact that it is, there was a gentleman that had been killed along the tracks. Again, the teenagers go out and they say it's the old man that was going on the tracks looking for his head, and they make up all these stories. There's also stories about people going out there and parking on the tracks and, waiting for the train to come. And, again, it gets closer, and a lot of times they just speed off because it is quite scary. I really liked this particular story because having that light actually approach the vehicle, I mean, that's terrifying. All of a sudden you're sitting there and like, oh, wow, look at the light. It's so cool. And then you turn around like, oh, wow, the light's right here. It's right behind me now. That's a little terrifying in itself. I know. Again, that's probably my favorite story of the St. Louis ghost train. But I think there is some more ghost stories of trains out there as well. But I really do like going to the Moose Jaw Museum, and they actually have quite a few trains on display there. And I always gotten a creepy feeling around this one area of the museum, and I don't know what it was. Ever since I was a little girl, I'd always go there. I was always fascinated with history, so I'd always beg my parents to take me to the museums, and I would play around all these full-size trains and locomotives that like right in like under this, the big dome of the Western Development Museum. And I always got this really crazy like sense of, somebody was there, or I didn't really know how to explain it, I guess, when I was little. But later on found out that there's apparently a ghost that does haunt that area around where the train is. So we haven't really heard anything any more stories about that. So I don't really have any theories as to who it could be. But again, involving trains, and I really do like that story, and I'd like to really go out and investigate that sometime and see if we could come up with our own theories as to what is happening with the light.
Does the man looking for his head ever get close to people?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Like, all I've heard is that the light comes closer. People have even like parked their car out there to try to get the light to beam the right way, but they said it doesn't even look close to what this phenomenon is. The red light, I guess, is just something that they see kind of just hovering maybe along the height that somebody would be holding a lantern. I don't know. As far as I know, I don't think the light has come like really close to somebody. But
so basically, in these areas, you have two ghosts. You got dude who's looking for his head. You have the train that sawed off his head.
Yeah.
And people are silly enough to park their vehicles on the area where the train used to run.
Yeah, well, again, it's a local ghost story. I mean, maybe for some of the teenagers, it's kind of a rite of passage. You have to, in that area, I would think so. I'd, say, hey, when you get your license, the first thing you have to do is go park on the tracks and see the St. Louis ghost light, maybe.
My goodness. I mean, here's the funny part about that is in the paranormal, some strange things have happened over the years where, sometimes, just sometimes, these spirits, whatever you want to call them, can leave marks and they can wreck things. And, I've seen a ghost car, and that was trippy, seeing a ghost car.
Yeah,
and I'm not talking about a police car. I'm talking about an actual ghost car that I was trying to catch to tell them to put their lights on because they were driving without any lights on. And this went over a bridge and disappeared on the other side. And I'll tell you, that is just freaky to me. I mean, you hear these stories of people running into ghost cars and their car is actually damaged. I could just imagine what a train would do.
Yeah, exactly. I know there's other stories I've heard in Saskatchewan too, that if you're driving down the highway and you have your high beams on and you see another approaching person, you back off on your high beams, and that other person might not be backing off on their high beams. And, if you flash them, they might turn around and follow you. And I don't know. That's kind of a story too in itself, but that's what it reminded me of. So even to this day, when I'm driving on the highway at night and I see somebody coming with their high beams on it, I'm really reluctant to actually flash my high beams. But again, maybe it's just the superstition.
I hear you. Alyson Ford is with us tonight on Spaced Out Radio. Ghost stories all night long. Would you tempt fate? I would. Why not? It's all part of the fun of enjoying the woo on Spaced Out Radio. All right, 1 second here. I'm going to go like this. Where is your profile here? This is from my neighbor's house. She lives about, a friend of mine's house. She lives about a mile away. This is what's happening outside my house right now.
Oh, pretty. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
I'll have to send you some photos. What year was that? Maybe 2016, 2017? 2016. I was dead asleep. Matt, of course, doesn't sleep, so he was up. And he literally he comes into the bedroom, shakes me awake. Alyson, you got to get up. And of course, my heart's pounding like, oh my gosh, what's going on? And he's like, just grab your camera and go outside. So I literally ran outside, and the northern lights were so close that day. This is in July, and they were so close I could almost like just reach out and touch them. That's how it felt. I've never before in my life seen them so intense. There was white ones and green ones and pink and purple, and
I've only seen that once. That was about 2017. Where literally they were dancing, like all the colors were dancing right over top of our house.
It was just phenomenal. Like I've never seen them that and it was hard because I was trying to get my camera. I was half asleep, so I'm trying to get the settings right on my camera, and I'm like, no, I can't get them, and finally got them, and I got some like the most amazing, beautiful pictures. So yeah I'm so happy he woke me up.
Yes. I hope this is the one that sticks around though, because after the show I'll go up on my patio and get a little bit higher angle to try and see them. There's just something pretty cool about it.
I mean, I've gone out lots of times just to like random nights, and there wasn't calling for aurora, but doing a long exposure, sometimes you can just catch them like quite frequently actually. I have a few places I like to go that have really nice foregrounds and that I can, do some light painting and then have the aurora in the background.
That would be nice.
Mm-hmm.
Oob to Joe's Maine, you've got aliens. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you do. I'm having fun listening to these stories. Thank you.
You're welcome. It was kind of born out of the idea that, Matt's like, oh, you should have a show on our radio station. And I thought, what could I do for a show? And I thought, well, you know what? I really like listening to those true crime stories. There's a couple people on YouTube, like, Bailey Sarian.
Yeah.
Does the true crime stories. I love
We're trying to get her on the show right now.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my God. I'd fangirl. I'd be like, hey.
I'm total fangirl over her, too. You know who one that you want to try is Swamp Dweller.
Okay.
Swamp Dweller, he's been a guest a couple times on the show. Just a guest last week. He's on YouTube. And his stories are incredibly freaky.
Nice.
And it's all paranormal stuff. And there's some true crime and everything in there, but it's amazing. I mean, the stories that he has coming in from park rangers and just everyday people, being chased by everything from Wendigos to Sasquatch and Dogman and Skinwalkers and.
Yeah, it's just and then I guess, with the stories, I just thought, well, wouldn't it be fun to just read some stories online? And I love reading stories to our daughter, and she loves listening to me. I didn't know if anybody would really actually like to listen to me tell stories, but apparently people do.
Mm-hmm.
Matt throws in the background noise. Sometimes it's wind, sometimes it's rain, and some people just like to veg out, and some people, well, Matt usually falls asleep while I'm talking. Like, yeah, I think he's sleeping right now, actually.
Probably.
Yeah. But when he does the recording and we send it to another online radio station in the UK, and he has to, edit it and make it better with the whatever. And he sends it off, but halfway through he's usually falling asleep listening to me talk.
Damn Matt.
So I don't take that personally. I think that's great. If you can fall asleep to my voice and I'm helping you go to sleep, that's great. I'm okay with it.
All right. Big thank you to G West, Spooky, Mark, Ann, and Tim for the super chats. It's a great way to support what we do on Spaced Out Radio. Merle's in the chat room, everyone. Merle.
Hey, girl.
We passed the halfway point of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We really do appreciate earning your listening ears. Want to remind you that if you miss portions of this show or others, check out our free archives to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram, Spaced Out Radio Show. We continue on tonight. Spooky Story Time with Alyson Ford from the Mudutu Effect out of beautiful Saskatchewan. And we bring her back in here. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much.
You having fun yet? Are you having fun yet?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Just want to make sure.
Of course. I love it.
All right. Nicola's asking, don't really know your area, but do you have any battlefield ghost stories or First Nations?
I don't have any readily available to read at the moment. But yes, there's around Saskatchewan some areas where there was battles that happened and that are quite haunted. Up in Prince Albert area, there's some battlefields up there that are quite haunted. Haven't been out there to personally see them, but I will definitely have to research that and bring them onto the show. So thank you for the suggestion.
Yeah, it's hard to believe how many battlefields are actually in Canada. I mean, when we think battlefields, we always think in the U.S., but we got some pretty big ones here. They're just never talked about or investigated, but that's very cool. All right, I had a question earlier from one of our listeners about EVPs. This one came from Gloria. What's the best EVP you've ever heard?
Oh, well, I've heard some really great ones, but one of my favorites, absolute favorites, was we were at Globe Theatre in Regina. It's actually in the old town hall building in downtown Regina. And they asked us to come and investigate. And we were in the green room at the time. So if you're a theater person, you know what the green room is. We were in that room, just thought, well, let's throw on a voice recorder and see if we catch anything. In the moment, we thought we caught nothing. We asked a bunch of questions and didn't hear a thing. We went back to the room we ended up, figuring out that we needed to actually do review in the moment because sometimes we don't hear things. So Matt actually has his headphones on, and all of a sudden I hear him just rip off his headphones and say, "Does anybody speak French?" It was a French EVP. We caught, so literally, I 100% know that there is nobody in that room speaking, and there's absolutely nobody speaking French at the time. I can't remember what the French phrase was. I used to know. I think it was like parlez-vous, something like that. So, yeah, that was pretty exciting. We've also caught whistlers. We've caught cats. Yeah, and it's just amazing. And sometimes we've caught EVPs where we've actually heard it on multiple cameras. So it wasn't like just a phenomenon for the one camera. It might be closest to one camera, so it's quite loud. But then we have another camera rolling, and it also picks it up. So again, that's quite fascinating to me.
Very cool. Very cool. And something along those lines, when it comes to EVPs, it's so cool when and I've done it myself, and anybody can really do this because you have a voice recorder on your phone. You don't need anything special. Just record on your phone. It may work, it may not. But to all of a sudden, play around and hear a voice that wasn't part of your group or wasn't around you at the same time, there's something a little awesomely scary about that.
Yeah, it's great. Again, we've caught a lot of things that we never even thought in the moment we were hearing anything, and all of a sudden, wow, there's a voice coming through, and it's quite exciting.
Right on. We are going to continue on with story time tonight with Alyson Ford. Now, what else do you got for us tonight?
This is a place that I have been, but I thought maybe I'll venture a little bit out into Manitoba.
Okay.
So if we have anybody from Manitoba,
those crazy Manitobans, crazy.
You're probably quite familiar with this icon in Winnipeg. The title of the story is called A Ghost Night's Sleep, and it's actually at the Fort Garry Hotel. And the reason why I know about this is because I was there it was called Paracon. And there was actually a Paracon, Winnipeg. And this was back, I think, in 2014. And it was a really awesome experience. They don't have it anymore, but when I was working with the tech that I was promoting at the time, I was able to go there and I was able to stay at the hotel. Nothing happened, but of course there's stories, and they chose that place because it was reportedly haunted. So I will go on to read the story. Like most grand hotels, the Fort Garry Hotel in Winnipeg has strong links with the past. It was built in 1913, close to where Upper Fort Garry once stood. The fort was built way back in 1835 on the site of an earlier trading post. In 1870, the famed Métis leader Louis Riel captured it during the Red River Rebellion. But a connection to history isn't the only thing many grand hotels have in common. Like several others, the Fort Garry Hotel is said to be haunted. For years, guests at the Fort Garry have reported feeling as if they weren't alone when they stayed in certain rooms. But those reports haven't stopped hundreds of guests from returning to the hotel year after year. In fact, a few specifically ask for a room that is rumored to be haunted. But what if, one night, the rumor became a reality? Suppose you fell asleep in such a room and woke up a few hours later because you felt the mattress move as if someone, or something, had lain down beside you. Would you just tell yourself you were dreaming and fall back asleep? That's what Brenda Chamberlain, a member of Parliament from Ontario, did when that happened to her at the Fort Garry. About 30 minutes later, Chamberlain woke up again. This time she had felt the invisible presence shift its weight on the mattress, as if it were trying to get more comfortable. At this point, a more timid person might have grabbed a robe and headed down the main desk to demand a new room. But Chamberlain didn't. Somehow she managed to stay calm and even got a few more hours sleep. Chamberlain was lucky, though. She probably wouldn't have stayed so calm if she had seen what some house cleaning staff say they've seen on the second floor. Streaks of blood running down the walls. And she might have been at least a little upset if a woman in a long white dress had floated at the end of her bed before drifting out the window. That's what one guest said she saw when she stayed at the hotel. A story about a doomed couple in love may explain the presence of a haunting spirits of the Fort Garry. It's said that a young woman ran away years ago to stay with her boyfriend at the hotel. Her father and brothers supposedly found the couple there and murdered the boyfriend. Crazed with grief, the young woman hung herself in the closet. Another similar story has a young woman hanging herself in the closet after finding out that her husband had just been killed in a car accident. Whatever the reason for the suicide, the grief-stricken young woman is said to wander the hotel in search of her lover. Some people believe that she died in the room where the blood appears on the walls and that she's the woman in the white gown. Could she or her boyfriend also be the ghostly visitor who slips into guests' beds? Some people say yes, and that the two lovers are trying to find each other and be together again. But the story of the dead couple doesn't seem to explain what happened at the hotel back in 1989. Two staff members were cleaning up the kitchen after 3 a.m. when they heard a noise in the dining room. The room was locked up for the night, and there wasn't supposed to be anyone in there. Quietly, the two men pushed open the swinging door from the kitchen. What they saw surprised them. Sitting at a table was a man who seemed to be thoroughly enjoying eating the dinner set out in front of him. They had never seen him before, and they hadn't served him any food. The workers slipped out to the front desk to ask the night manager if he knew who the man in the dining room was. He had no idea what they were talking about. Curious, he went back to the kitchen with them and pushed open the swinging door. The dining room was dark and silent, and there was no sign of the man or the food he'd been eating. Was that middle-of-the-night dinner another ghostly visitor checking into the Fort Garry Hotel? Perhaps. Who else could have been? For this story, again, multiple ghosts. The other one, the lady in the white, maybe she could be someone that you could interact with. The man in the dining room, though, part of me thinks it's kind of that imprint theory again, maybe a residual haunting. So, yeah, a little, few different ghosts again in one spot. And, those old CP hotels are absolutely gorgeous, all across Canada. And, we have the Delta and Bessborough. We have the Saskatchewan hotel here as well. I've been to Banff. I've been to that hotel, which is also haunted. Beautiful hotels. Absolutely beautiful. And some really interesting stories to come out of there.
When you get a place like Fort Garry, which is packed with history, packed with spirits, is that residual energy that is being picked up, or is that something a little bit different?
I think it could be a combination of both. Definitely. I think too, especially, people dining in an area that's, people have been dining in there for 100 years. So again, could be an imprint of some kind. And definitely, I think, there's probably spirit there that you can communicate with. I find it really interesting in this story, though, when it talks about two women actually hanging themselves in a closet. So I'm wondering if that's not just one lady that that happened to. Maybe, I'm not sure. It seems kind of funny that it'd be two people, but again, hotels are a lot of stories come out of hotels, again, because there's a lot of people that go through a hotel. But it's actually sad to know that a lot of people commit suicide in hotels. And maybe they're, that we're talking about the regret, the guilt that they're feeling, maybe that they shouldn't have done something like that, or maybe they still needed to get some information to their families, maybe some closure they needed. It's hard to say, but a lot of tragedies do happen at hotels. People get murdered. Like in this story, we heard about a murder that happened there. People die in the hotels. People live in the hotels. So yeah, again, it's that perfect kind of spot where there's all these energies, and it does help facilitate some of this paranormal activity.
A lot of places that are darker like that, like hotels, is it the energy around them that allows people to kind of fall into that state of disrepair or disrepute?
Yeah, I would agree with that. Absolutely.
Okay, go ahead.
Oh no, I think I think definitely. I mean, it's full of energy. I mean, if you've been to any hotel, it's quite, if you're even the least bit, you can feel the energies. It's definitely, you feel that energy when you go into a hotel. There's just so many people there, and so many people that had been there. So makes sense.
Well, I mean, you look at Las Vegas, for instance, and I know the casinos there do not allow any type of paranormal investigation because of the history, the seedy history of what could be there. I mean, even in the Luxor, where, people have been known, they lose their shirts at the tables or whatever, and they've been known to jump from the rafters, to their deaths for suicide. I mean, it happens. Or what they call the suicide hotel, the Cecil in Los Angeles. I mean, there's a lot of hotels that have this black, dark energy that is all around them. And is it because most hotels or motels are quite lonely places for, travelers, for salespeople, for truckers, for those who are on the run for whatever reason?
Unfortunately, there's actually an easy explanation too for why a lot of suicides happen at hotels. It's a lot of times when people have chosen to commit suicide, it's because they go to a place where it's, disconnected from the house that they live in, or the people, because a lot of times people do, commit suicide and they don't want, maybe a family member to find them, or somebody that they love to find them. Right. So it makes sense that you would go to a place where the most likely people to find you would be like a cleaning staff, of that nature. So, I mean, unfortunately, yeah. And again, like those, it's just like a hospital, a hospital has a lot of different varied energy. People live and die in a hospital every single day. And we get a lot of reports of a hospital being haunted. The General Hospital in Regina, super haunted. We get stories from there. All the nursing staff. I mean, I've honestly haven't talked to one nurse that hasn't experienced something paranormal at that, especially at that hospital.
What are some of the stories you're hearing out of there?
This is a really cool story. The Grey Nuns, they were a group of nuns. They actually would, they're nurses. And they would actually do their nursing rounds, and they'd have an area just set aside for the Grey Nuns. And a few people, nurses, even people that have spent some time at the hospital, have actually seen images of the Grey Nuns. And of course, they're called the Grey Nuns for a reason. They're wearing a gray outfit and like a nun habit and the gray outfit. So again, that could be residual. Might not be someone you could talk to. A few people just reported seeing nurses that maybe or people that probably work at that hospital that they've worked there for 20 years and they've worked in that area for how long, and they've never seen that person in their entire life. And then they look back and say, the one lady I was talking to, she said that she'd seen a glimpse of a lady wearing like an older nurse's with the little hat on her head. And she said it struck her right away because she thought, wow, she's wearing this hat. And I thought that was really kind of cool. But she said, I don't know why she was wearing it, because they don't have to. They were just basically wearing scrubs at that point. And then she realized that, okay, well, I saw this lady, but where did she go? And so she starts looking around her ward, looking for this lady. Couldn't find her because she just even wanted to say, hey, I really like the little hat that you're wearing on top. Like, where did you get it? Being a fellow nurse, it was kind of interesting. But yeah, she wasn't able to find that lady. And so again, was it residual or was it actually a nurse that, is still making her rounds? So...
Weirdest hospital story I ever heard came from Duncan, British Columbia on Vancouver Island in, I believe, 1971 or 73, where a nurse was checking up on her patients, and it was probably around 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock in the morning. It was still dark. And her one patient was getting kind of restless, and she... saw some light coming out from outside the window. So she went over to the curtains and opened up the curtains to see a UFO hovering right beside the window, about 40, 50 feet from the window. It was on an angle, and she could see the two occupants inside of it. That's how close she was. And another nurse, the head nurse on the level, actually came in kind of like, hey, what are you doing in here? And saw the UFO hovering there as well. And the two occupants and how they were standing, and the one was taller than the other, and she could see the instrument cluster inside the UFO before it just zoomed off into space or wherever it was going. I mean,
that's intense.
That is totally
Wow.
intense. Totally intense. But I mean,
Yeah.
you're right about hospitals, because hospitals are best case and worst case. You have the best case scenario in the newborn section of the hospital, the maternity ward, and then you have the worst case scenario where people are literally on their last breaths going out. I mean, I could just imagine what that would be like, being in a hospital, especially an older hospital where the spirits may not even know they're dead yet.
True. Absolutely. Also, too, I of course, I throw theories out there in my head, but what about the equipment? There's all these imaging machines, these ginormous magnets, all the scanning machines that put out insane amount of frequencies. Maybe that has, it might help facilitate it. But again, I'm kind of more leaning towards, these are some of the best times of your life. You're welcoming a child into the world, and some of the most tragic parts of your life. I mean, I've experienced both. I experienced the death of my father and the birth of my daughter in the same hospital. So, I mean, it's, again, the birth, one of the hardest parts of my life, and then one of the most amazing parts of my life. So. It leaves an imprint. That energy leaves an imprint. There's, you can't get around that. It's the emotion behind it.
My daughter, when my son was when my partner was in labor with my son, my daughter was running from that room all the way down to the emergency room because her 99-year-old aunt from her mother's side was passing away while we were in labor with our son. I mean, it's just weird to think. And my daughter was a little weirded out by it. She's like, I don't know whether to be happy, to be sad, or, I don't even know how to act right now. Don't even know how to act. But I mean, hospitals, man, I would love to have toured my old hospital. It's torn down now. But the hospital where I was born in, I would love to have toured that hospital because my grandfather had a major paranormal experience there and a near-death experience.
Oh,
and I would love to have gone down to that morgue to see what he had seen.
There was in Saskatchewan, there was a hospital in, I think it was called Coupar. And we were able to get in there. The hospital had since shut down. They'd used it for a while for first responders to stay in. And they had just recently moved the first responders out of there, and somebody had said, "Hey, did you want to do an investigation?" So we actually went with another team that was formed at the time, and we went out to Q-Bar and set everything up, brought all the equipment, spent quite a few hours there. It was really eerie because
finish the story when we come back, because haunted hospitals are definitely one of those weird things we need to talk about, as we got another 30 minutes left with Alyson Ford before John Hudson joins us for the UFO Report. We'll be back. I'm going to put your mic on mute, and I'm going to go see if the Northern Lights are out there again. Hold on. See if I can do this time. Hey, Logan, how you doing, buddy? It's beautiful outside. You got the whole green line going through the sky right now. It's phenomenal. Let me just go like this. See if I can get them through here. There they are. I'll show you guys here. That's kind of what the sky looks like at my place right now. It's hard to see, but you can see it's got some green haze to it. There's a good photo right there. I'll blow this up here. You can see the green haze down in here. Gotta love it. Northern Lights. I'm so excited. Now I get to see what I want to do when I get done the show. Go look outside and hang out and watch the Northern Lights. All excited by that. All right, I guess I should take your mute off so that way you can speak. That might help. Hey, ufologist, how you doing? Yeah, it's really cool right now because if you look at it, it looks like a hazy mist going through the sky, but you could see like tinges of green and all of that, so it's kind of cool. After the show, I'll go upstairs on my patio where I'll be able to see it much better. We got about 1 minute here. So, Alyson, when we get to the end of the show here, just wait through the break, and then we'll get you off to say goodnight, and then you can get to bed there and go do your thing. And that's 4 stories there. That's good there. All right, a big thank you to G West, Spooky, Mark, Ann, and Tim for the amazing super chats. It's a great way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis. So thank you so much for taking part, and anybody else who wants to, you're more than welcome to. A big thank you to all the veterans who are tuning us in, and of course all the regulars out there who are hanging on out. We really do appreciate it, and we're going to get going right now.
Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. Now, back to Dave Scott and SOR.
Here we go with the third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We really do appreciate earning your listening ears wherever we are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Thank you to everyone tuning us in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America and digitally on TalkStream Live, Revolution Radio, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Go to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club, Nebulophobia. Nebulophobia is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. You can find us on for our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram, Spaced Out Radio Show. For the final time tonight, spooky story time with Alyson Ford. She is a paranormal investigator out of somewhere in Saskatchewan. Nobody knows where, but you know what? Everybody knows everybody in Saskatchewan, so it really doesn't matter anyways. And, her neighbors are like 102 miles apart, but that's okay. That's okay. She knows them. She knows them, and we're into spooky stories here as we encroach a little bit closer on Halloween. Alyson, welcome back.
Thank you very much.
I've had fun tonight, Alyson. I've enjoyed this. Thank you. I really appreciate it. It's kind of a nice little easy fireside warm-up to Halloween. Excellent. In just a couple of weeks' time.
Spooky season has begun.
Yes. What's your favorite part about this year?
Well, from a practitioner standpoint, I love this time of the year. Again, the veils are thinning. I just love the excitement around that. We usually perform a large ritual on Samhain, Halloween night. So we're looking forward to doing that. Just the energy. It's just such a great time of the year. Kids are excited about going trick-or-treating. Our daughter's getting excited about wearing her costume, which she usually picks out like 2 or 3 months ahead of time because, like, to me, this is just as good as, Yule or Christmas or whatever you celebrate. To me, this is our time of the year. And again, people are a little bit more open to talking about the paranormal, more about witchcraft, about the cult, about any of that. They're just a little bit more open to it. They just are wanting to hear the stories. And of course, that reflects on, we have, multimedia places, reaching out to us for stories. And now we're getting, especially with the Mudutu Effect, and it's starting to definitely gain a lot of momentum. We just recently had an interview with CBC Radio 1. That was awesome. And again, we're just, sharing information and we learn from each other. So it's a good time of the year to talk about it.
Here's a strange Canadian Halloween fact that you might not even know. In Churchill, Manitoba, on Halloween night, it is illegal for anybody to lock their doors and for kids to wear white costumes. The reason why is on Halloween night, for some reason, annually, that is the night when the polar bears decide to come to town. So for the kids to go trick-or-treating, they all have to have dark costumes on, and all the doors have to be unlocked in case polar bears come. They put up armed guards around the town for a specific time of 1 hour for children to go trick-or-treating, and then everybody goes to a halt because the polar bears, for some reason on Halloween night, that is their favorite night to gather in town.
I mean, yeah, like Matt said, it's just like, that is the most Canadian trick-or-treating story ever. I'm very much familiar with extreme trick-or-treating, growing up in Saskatchewan. There's been times we've had blizzards on Halloween night. And one of our famous costumes was, if it was minus 40 below in a blizzard, we just put on our snowsuits and say, we come to the door and they say, well, what are you supposed to be? And we're like, we're from Saskatchewan. That's our costume.
That's all you need. That is all you need is being. Yeah. If I was from Saskatchewan, I'd go as a piece of wheat every year. maybe rotate in a piece of canola every now and again.
I think every year we'd always gone as a farmer, but I mean, that wasn't a big stretch. I mean, my family was a farming family, so I'd just go into my dad's good as plaid shirt and jeans and baseball hat, and away I'd go. And
nothing Canadian about that.
No. But yeah, no, I mean, like, to us, it was just the most amazing time of the year. We grew up in a small town too, so there wasn't a whole lot of houses, but you'd get full-size chocolate bars, and you knew the houses to go to get them. And here's a funny story. There's actually a old guy that was out on a farm, and he was a single guy, and he just worked some weird hours. And we always made a point of going out to his farm because he never really, I don't think he paid attention to when Halloween was. And we just show up on his door and be like, trick or treat. And of course, he didn't have any candy. So he'd start looking for things around his house to give us. So he'd go into his fridge and, here's some food. And, here's some leftovers. Here's a trinket off the shelf, and like shove it in our bag. And it was hilarious. It was absolutely hilarious to see that happen. So yeah, we did that every year. And then of course, the story I told about the farmer who hung himself at that particular farm, we'd all pile in after we'd gone trick-or-treating, and my dad would drive us out there and tell us the story, and we'd love that, and then go home and fill up on candy. And yeah, it's a great time of the year. And I really enjoy it, especially now with our daughter. She's 10 years old, and she still absolutely adores Halloween. And here too, now that we have the Mudutu Effect in town. And it was COVID last year, but gosh, we had a lot of kids come to the door, and I'm glad that they feel like they can come here and get candy. And there's probably like one of the creepiest houses in town. So.
Around my town, you always try and find there's one elderly couple that live in this condominium complex or townhouse complex. You go there every year, you get a drink, a bag of chips, and a candy bar, each kid.
Score.
And literally, when they open the door, you see the boxes like standing like 5-6 feet high because they know all the kids are coming and they just absolutely love it. So I think it's fantastic. I love Halloween.
Mm-hmm.
Can't wait to go trick or treating this year. I'm not going to be trick or treating. My son is, but you know what? Hey, one for him, one for Dad. Even though I'm trying to lose weight, one for him, one for Dad.
Well, we usually, if the adults come with their kids and they stop at the door, we usually have shots available for the adults. So that's always kind of fun. Yeah, it's like trick or drink for the adults, and the kids get the candy, and yeah, everybody's happy.
I haven't had one trick or treater at my house since we moved here because, well, we're in the boonies. I mean, nobody comes here. So we drive to town and make it happen. All right, let's continue with story time here, because I think we got time for one final story with you.
Okay, well, I did find the story I was looking for too.
Perfect.
That of the Banff Springs Hotel. So it's quite famous. A lot of people. Have you been to Banff Springs Hotel at all?
I have not. I know where it is, and they do not allow paranormal investigation there. Mm-hmm. Even though everybody wants to paranormal investigate there, they do not allow it. They are very strict about it, especially on the one floor that's supposed to be the 13th floor, but it's actually the 14th floor.
Oh, yeah, and that's another, that's something really cool to bring up, that they have, there's no 13th floor, and I guess that's the superstition thing with the hotels, especially the older hotels. It's a beautiful hotel. If you've ever been to Banff, you can't miss it. I've never actually had a chance to stay there. I would have loved to. It's I think it's fairly costly to stay there, but yeah, I mean, it's absolutely gorgeous. It looks like a castle on the lake. It's just absolutely gorgeous. But yeah, there's some famous ghost stories out of here, but I will read you one. And this one's called The Haunted Hotel, Banff, Alberta. Each year, thousands of tourists from around the world travel to Banff, Alberta, attracted by its incredible natural beauty, and those who can afford to often stay at the luxurious Banff Springs Hotel. Sorry about that. Built high in the Rockies in the 1880s, the hotel offers spectacular views of the snow-capped mountains and the Bow River Valley. Outside, it looks like an old Scottish castle. Inside, it provides guests with every possible comfort. Many people like the hotel so much, they say they wish they didn't have to leave. Some people believe that a few individuals have decided to stay on forever, even in death. Over the years, there have been several reports of ghostly sightings at the castle in the Rockies. A mysterious bartender is said to occasionally appear in the bar to tell patrons who've had too much to drink that they should call it a night and go to bed. There have also been tales of a wandering bagpiper who might be looking for what he's lost, namely his head. But most reports about seeing phantoms involve two ghosts in particular. The first is said to be a regular at the hotel. He's even been given a name, Sam. While Sam seems to prefer hanging around the hotel's 9th floor, he's been spotted in many different areas of the building. Guests who claim to have met up with Sam report seeing a man wearing an old-fashioned bellhop's uniform. But Sam doesn't just look like a bellhop, he acts like one too. Always polite and helpful, he's carried bags for guests and opened doors for a few who have locked themselves out of their rooms. But as soon as someone tries to chat with him or offer him a tip for his services, he leaves so quickly it's as if he disappeared. Guests' descriptions of Sam in his uniform suggest he might be a bellhop who worked at the hotel more than 70 years ago. But no one knows for sure. One thing is for certain, though. There's no real person who looks like Sam working at the hotel. The second phantom that several people have seen drifting around the hotel is an unnamed woman wearing a long, flowing white gown. Hers is a tragic story. It's said that she is the ghost of a beautiful young bride whose family had booked the grand ballroom for a magnificent wedding party. As she started walking down the marble staircase with her new husband to join their guests, she tripped on the long train of her dress. Another version of the story says her gown brushed against candles on the stairs and caught fire, and she stumbled as she whirled around to stamp out the flames. Either way, her husband tried desperately to stop her from falling, but she broke her neck as she tumbled down the stairs and fell dead on the floor below. Does the spirit of that young bride really haunt the hotel where she died? Banff Springs representatives say no, adding that the sad tale was started as a public relations prank decades ago. But over the years, a few people have mentioned feeling an icy breeze slip past them as they walked down the marble staircase. Others claim to have caught a passing glimpse of a young woman in white coming down the stairs. And still others say that they've seen, just for an instant, a vision of a beautiful girl in a flowing white dress waltzing alone across the grand ballroom floor. So the one ghost story that I had heard was, I hadn't heard the bellhop one, but I had heard about the lady coming down the stairs, and that's the lady in white. And I've heard that from multiple people, the story. They hadn't seen her firsthand. But I wondered if it was, they say it was a publicity stunt, but is that something now that other people are going there and they're expecting to see? So now they're projecting that, which can happen quite a bit. When we go to do paranormal investigations, people might, be projecting something. It might not be really paranormal at all. It could just be a something that they expected to see, or that they've made up the story and everyone's buying into it now. So that could be a possible explanation. It's a really beautiful, I've seen the actual marble staircase, absolutely gorgeous. Again, it's kind of a really neat vibe. I really enjoyed being there. I just kind of walked around as much as I could and into the places that were public. I hopefully would like to stay there someday. I mean, I love those old CP hotels. They're just absolutely gorgeous.
It's quite grandiose and quite first class, shall we say. And I think that's the reason why they don't play up to the paranormal phenomena, is because of the amount of money it costs to stay there. I mean, you're looking at a 5-star hotel with, basking on the edges of Lake Louise and the snow-capped mountains, and it's unbelievable for a tourist attraction that attracts millions of people every year. And so I can understand why they would want to keep that very quiet with that. But I have heard the story of the lady. I always thought that she was a bride left at the altar. That's what I had heard. But the bellhop story is the one that interests me the most there, because, I mean, to this day, this spirit will appear in full, just like you and I, in full sight, take your baggage up to your room. Could you imagine if that happened to you? How weird that would be?
Yeah, I that would be really cool. I'm hoping whatever's in our house, I'm hoping if they start moving things that they can help me out with the cleaning and maybe picking up some of our daughter's toys and things. That would be great, but that hasn't happened yet. But I mean, for it to be so physical like that, yeah, that's it's interesting. And it is, I think maybe, yeah, again, it is a 5-star hotel. They don't probably want paranormal investigators running around the hotel at all times, of the evening. There's probably events and things like that going on. They don't want that reputation. Again, if I go back to the the Ghosts of Government House, they won't allow paranormal teams in there either. And this is kind of a sad story because what happened was they'd actually allowed a local psychic to come in one time to film and talk with the residents there, the ghostly residents. And apparently she started airing their dirty laundry, saying, oh, this person slept with this person, and kind of saying these negative things. And it really upset the staff there because, these ghostly people have become part of their family. Like, they are actually quite protective of the ghosts there. And I think that's great. I absolutely do. I mean, one day I would absolutely love to investigate there in a very respectful way. But I could see why they won't let people in there to investigate anymore. And it's quite sad, but yeah, it makes sense.
But a lot of the big locations, Alyson, have gone that way. I know there's an old tuberculosis asylum here just south of me in Kamloops, British Columbia. They don't allow paranormal teams in there either because back in the day, Much Music, Canada's version of MTV, did a spooky location area. They went there, and apparently they tore the place apart and ruined it for anybody else trying to get in there for any type of ghostly adventure. Now, they do tours in there, and, they do haunted tours and so on, but they're not actual there for paranormal investigation. It's more like, let's get spooky, let's put a bunch of people around and scare the daylights out of you. So that's kind of how it's going. And it's sad because all it takes is one person to be an idiot to ruin it all for everyone else, especially those who take the paranormal very seriously.
Yeah, we've encountered that quite a bit over the years, and it is really sad. And I guess, again, to make these places to be haunted, and then, there's people that just don't care about other people's property. They're just about to, just show up and come in, break into the location and cause mischief. And yeah, it's too bad, but it does happen.
All right. Now, with only a couple minutes left with you tonight, I'm just curious, what are you doing to plan for Halloween? What are you being?
Myself. Yeah, I know that's
a witchy witch.
That's too exciting, but yeah. I usually kind of maybe dress a little bit more witchier than I do on the regular, and I don't know. I have lots of witchy clothes to wear, so yeah, it just gives me an excuse to maybe dress up, put some makeup on, because usually I'm, I went all out for you today and wore a hoodie. I felt kind of bad about that.
Appreciate that.
Have probably dressed up somewhat, but
that's all right. We got to view Matt's beard. That's all that matters.
Perfect. Absolutely. But it's again, we get together with some friends, and it's our celebration. It's our kind of New Year. So we get together and we celebrate, and we usually perform ritual, and we actually do investigate the ritual. We try to collect data from that, and over the years we've actually had some really interesting data collected, because Matt, with his work with the SOTG, which is the Saskatchewan Occult Technologies Group, there's a few members that will participate as well. So the people that are performing the ritual usually have cameras on them. We have data collection, like from all different types of tech, even time distortion, which we've actually caught time distortion doing ritual. So it's quite interesting, and we hope to, in the future, maybe publish some of these things. But it would be nice to be able to collect a little bit more and see if the same things keep happening year after year. So yeah, it's a big deal for us, and it's a special time of the year.
Well, we appreciate you coming on Spaced Out Radio tonight. We got about 45 seconds, Alyson. Tell everybody where they can find the Mudutu Effect.
The best way to get a hold of us would be www.mudutu.ca. That's MUDUTU.ca. And there's a link to the Mudutu Effect and everything that we do, from our radio station to our research. There's a cult publications that Matt has posted. Also to the classes. So if you're interested in taking a class, this is where you go as well. And if you have stories, you want to reach out to us, that's the best place to do it.
Wonderful. Alyson Ford, happy Halloween to you.
Happy Halloween.
And may you and Matt have a great holiday for you guys. We appreciate the love that you guys give us from the Mudutu Effect. Alyson Ford, everybody. Coming up next, we have our good friend, the fedora-wearing John Hudson, coming in for the UFO report. Shirky Poo has the news, and we got the thought of the day. Stay tuned. Spaced Out Radio continues after this. That was awesome. Thank you so much.
Aw, thank you so much. It's wonderful. It's always a pleasure.
We will do it again next year.
Absolutely.
That would be fun.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. And maybe we'll get more of Matt's beard on camera, because we need that in our lives.
Yeah. I should start selling like the ones that come off.
Probably.
I do resin work. I could put in like a resin and magic wizard beard hairs.
I want some of those for my office.
All right.
I'm not even lying. Not even lying. I've got 5 beards in here right now. And I have a deal with Matt that if he ever shaves it, I get it.
Nope.
No, that would be terrifying.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you so much, Alyson.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate you and Matt. Love you guys.
Love you too.
All right, we'll talk soon, okay?
Yes.
All right. Bye-bye. Love them. Love them. Both Matt and Alyson. Great people. Great people. Fantastic people. I slept 11 hours last night to this morning. I feel great. Tired now, but I feel like I've almost caught up on my sleep in like just this weekend. And I got the full week off. Hey, Fap, I wouldn't say that I would say, looking at my hair in this picture right now, I would say I got more like hair of Mama from Throw Mama from the Train than I do of any female soccer player. Owen! Owen! See? Told you. Hi, Sensational Sherry. I gotta grow my hair out more. It's frizzy tonight. I washed it earlier. There's the fedora-wearing John Hudson. He's got to stick in his chewing tobacco first.
How's it going, sir?
Good, buddy. How are you? What's your chew of the night?
Say again?
I was bugging people saying that you chew tobacco.
Oh, God, no. I used to smoke like a chimney, though. I used to smoke a pack and a half of Marlboro Red a day. Started when I was 12.
Bet you're good at it, too.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, definitely one of the hardest addictions you'll ever run into quitting. But you know how I did it? I got my wisdom teeth pulled. Couldn't smoke for 3 days, and like that was my gap that I took advantage of.
Nice.
I was so drugged up on Vicodin, it didn't really matter to me.
Very cool. Very cool.
Those are some fun stories tonight, huh?
Oh, yeah. Northern Lights are trending on Twitter right across Canada.
I'm sure the Northern Lights are very excited about their big splash on social media.
All I'm saying is that as soon as this show is over and I get my editing done, I am heading outside.
Could you see it earlier?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
So jealous.
I saw it at the last break, last half hour.
Very cool.
Yeah. Ozzy
I'm not saying it's worth all the snow, but, it's cool.
No, dude, it was snowing in the mountains yesterday evening.
I don't doubt it.
Yeah, that kind of sucks. That's getting a little too close for comfort.
Yeah, you live in the middle of freaking nowhere, man.
I know, but either way, I don't deserve snow this year. This early, I mean. Here I am driving through. It's dark out, and I have the snow tunnel going on. Hold on. Big thank you to Ozzy Rob and his Ham Hawks, Major Lee, G West, Spooky, Mark, Ann, and Tim for the amazing super chats. Remember, it's a great way to support what we do on a nightly basis here on Spaced Out Radio through the super chat. And we're going to get going here with John Hudson and the UFO Report right now, so stay tuned. We rounded third. We're heading for home tonight on Spaced Out Radio. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We really do appreciate earning your listening ears. Want to remind you that if you've missed most of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram, Spaced Out Radio Show. It's time, once again, where we bring in the fedora-wearing John Hudson for the unbiased UFO Report. Honestly, this has to be one of my favorite songs from Bumblefoot. The Day After, it's called. Oh, it's beautiful. And it's good for building up the UFO talk tonight with the fedora-wearing John Hudson, as we're going to start off with all of the hype last week brought on by the Howard the Duck UFO.
Yeah, well, first off, greetings, everyone. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. Honestly, I think in many ways, this whole phenomenon over the last couple of years, especially what's been going on in social media, is going to end up being probably several masters and a couple PhDs for some psychology and psychiatry students. Because what you have is you have these glaring examples where, I'm just glad it's not great evidence. Because if it was great evidence, I'd be really upset about what's going on. But people are just fighting over it ridiculously. And people are basically picking on one little thing that they think is wrong with it and blowing that way out of proportion, and then trying to use that as an argument that the entire thing is debunked. And no one has the data. I mean, it's like, yeah, you can glean some things. You can glean some things from what's being shown, but people are just coming to these really quick conclusions. You got people arguing that because of the way the plane was circling, that the drone was actually, or whatever it was actually going 15 miles an hour, and it wasn't going 100 or 200. You have people arguing all sorts of crazy stuff, and they're just. It's just one big echo chamber because you can't prove anything. I mean, so I just kind of focus on the duck aspect of it because I think that's really funny, and it's like, yeah, that's as good a thing to focus on as anything else.
So what's new with it? I mean, here this video comes allegedly from Homeland Security, and what do we know about it?
We know, that's the thing, is we know very, very, very little. The best thing we have is Dave Felch, basically, like I said before, did this really great, 8-minute thing. And he did reach out to the guy that released the video. He did evidently, he seemed to imply that he might have actually been in contact with the person who filmed it, which I need to double check with, because I wasn't really sure that I understand what he said correctly, and I don't have a relationship with Dave Felch, so I need to find a way to reach out to him and check on that. But essentially, it's the same thing with every other video we get. We get one video, we get some indication it's an official video. Okay, it's an official video. It doesn't necessarily mean that what's on it is officially recognized. It just means that the video itself is official. Personally, I think until the SCU or someone like the SCU comes out with a nice, deep report on what they were able to gather and what they were able to do, I think it's really, really challenging. But to put it in perspective, I saw one show, which I won't name because I don't want to pick on them, because I like the show, but they spent 2 hours debating this, right? And you could get more out of Dave Felch's 8-minute video about what actually happened than you could in that entire 2-hour program, right? Because people are just spinning their wheels, and they're so desperate to fail it in one way or the other, and it's too early. I mean, it's like we just got the video. It frustrates me to no end. But it is entertaining.
Has this video been confirmed by anybody with U.S. government ties yet?
So I have not seen this in writing, which is I need to dig for. But essentially, my understanding is that that Elizondo said that his understanding is it is an official video. He's not super excited about what's on the video, but his understanding is that it is an authentic video.
Well, that's very interesting, because I'm surprised that the major media hasn't picked this up yet. They've been all over the videos so far, especially recently with Jeremy Corbell, and it just seems like, maybe the source who got this video didn't really have the popularity or the muster as somebody like Corbell does, but I'm really surprised they haven't picked this up yet.
So I would argue two different things. I would argue that someone with Corbell's ability to present material, like, he could have presented this in a way that it would have got a lot of attention. But I would argue that essentially, if it had been a better video, it wouldn't have mattered who presented it. It would have got a lot of attention. The problem is this video it's boring. I mean, it is boring. And I mean, essentially, the only part of it that I find interesting is the consistency of the color. That's it. I mean, it's the consistency of the color as it travels, the consistency of the color throughout the object, and the consistency of the color around the object. And the fact that this did not change as it changed speeds, as it changed altitudes, anything. To me, that is the only thing about this video that's actually really, really interesting. And that is interesting, but it's not like, I wouldn't run to, my editor and go, "Oh, wow, look at this," right? I mean, it's just, it's sleepy.
All right. Do we have any new updates on the Einstein story?
Just a couple little tidbits that I just wanted to pass on, just because I know so many people are kind of as interested in the case as I am. So, a friend of the show, Thomas Fessler, did a basically an interview of Anthony Bragalia. Is that right? Bragalia?
Bragalia.
Am I getting
yes.
close? Yeah, thank you. And once again, sorry, Anthony, I'm trying. So he was on Thomas's Fessler's show the other day, and so they had a really nice conversation. I'll post a link to it. I encourage everyone to watch it. And so we learned a couple new things. I learned that the story that I'd heard before about why Anthony Bragalia was talking to her was not correct. It was because he likes to read old books and look for things that weren't followed up on, and he read the book that mentioned this case where her name was a pseudonym, and he basically discovered that while he couldn't get her name, he was able to get the name of the MUFON researcher that interviewed her, and so he went looking for her, and he actually called every single woman in like a tri-state area with that name, every one of them. I mean, I don't know how many he called, but he called a lot of people.
Wow.
And he just found her. I mean, so he worked for this, but it was more intentional than I realized. But I thought that was just interesting how much work he put into it. The researcher, she turns out she is actually somewhat willing to talk. So if someone wants to reach out to her and talk to her, the door's not gonna be immediately shut. But she doesn't want any fanfare. She's not looking for any press. I believe she's 80 years old. It took her quite a lot of convincing to release the videos to him. Although once she agreed to do so, she was the one that on her own took the weird format they were on, which I didn't even recognize the format. It was called a stick. I don't know what a stick is, but take it and from a stick format and got it converted to MP3 for Anthony and handed it to him in MP3 format, which was really cool of her. She's still looking for the third one, hoping to get it. But I encourage everyone to listen to the interview. And then the only other thing I'll pass on, and if it was any other case, I wouldn't, because I have no evidence to show for this. But all I can say is I have a friend who knew well some of the contemporary physicists that were alive at this time, and he basically said that he personally feels that he has proof that essentially Einstein was not the only physicist invited, that it was basically the bulk of the Manhattan Project physicists that were invited. So that Teller, Feynman, Wheeler, the list goes on. That there was quite a lot that went, and so I think there's a lot of opportunity to track down all their assistants, track down all of their helpers, look at every canceled dentist appointment, every canceled this, every canceled that, and look for gaps in anyone's schedule that we can match up, because there's got to be breadcrumbs about this one.
No kidding. And I think this is a story where anybody who's into sleuthing evidence and researching, I think there's something here. I really do. And I really would encourage anybody out there to maybe contact the university that has the documents and the files of Einstein's work. Maybe there's a diary in there that says something about this. We don't know, but it is worth the shot to see if there's more to this regarding Einstein and Roswell. Yeah.
Yeah, especially because if there were multiple physicists there, and you can find the physicist that was not prominent at the time, they might not have been watched as carefully, and they may have made more indications of it in their own journals or their own notebooks, or to their you had to get someone to cover your class for the week, right? There's got to be evidence of that, right? I mean, there has to be breadcrumbs.
100%. Fully agree with you. All right, let's move on to the next topic. There's a letter about Roswell that was sent to Stanton Friedman as we continue the Roswell talk. What's happening here?
Yes. Okay, so the reason why I'm reporting this actually is not because of the letter. The letter itself is interesting, and I'll provide a link to it, and everyone should read it. But the reason why I find this story very interesting is because when I read this, I thought, well, they're not giving me a whole lot of information in this article. I'd like to read the actual letter. And so I thought, well, who knows anything about Stanton Friedman files, right? We might know somebody, right? So I, messaged Nicole Sackage, and I said, hey, Nicole, do you know, where this letter is? Can I see it? And she came back very curious. She said that she talked to Grant, and they were going to look into it, because according to the article, it was seen in some kind of a display of Stanton's documents that was available somewhere. And they're confused because they're not aware of any actual presentation of his documents that has been done. So Grant Cameron's looking into it, and they're trying to figure out exactly where this letter was seen and who has it. So I personally found that almost as interesting as the article itself.
What's said to be on that letter?
Basically, it's another first person account passed on through two people, but basically a military person who was at the site and was basically, it's kind of an interesting story, because basically he was a rare duck at the time, in that he had experience with jet propelled aircraft, and so he was actually asked to take a look at the wreckage to figure out whether this was just a really advanced jet design that he hadn't seen before. And so he got to take a look at the wreckage quite closely. And basically what he came back and said to them was, this is not a jet. I have no idea what this is, but this is not a jet. So it's an interesting firsthand account, and it's definitely worth reading. But like I said, I'm almost more interested now in finding out, how did someone see this letter, and why is it not a part of Stanton Friedman's original collection, which is what Grant Cameron's been working on, right? So I'm curious as to how this is going to turn out as well.
I'm very excited to see this whole new look into Roswell from a completely different angle, because this is one of those stories that's in the UFOs Pandora's box that continues to need to be told. I really do believe that.
It's like sorry, but just real quick, it's like the Einstein story in that there were so many people involved. There were so many people involved in Roswell. There's the network of strings that you can follow back for that one. There's got to be a lot of data out there.
Oh yeah. All right, let's continue on. We're all wondering, did the Seawolf USS Connecticut submarine hit Megalodon, or just a piece of rock underwater?
Well, I'm only voting for Megalodon because I like you, Dave.
Thank you.
But it is kind of an interesting case. Now, if you read the great article that the Drive just put up, which I'll provide a link to, they went and talked to a sonar type expert that had spent much time in the nuclear subforce, and he gives an interesting explanation of the combination of high frequency near field detection they have versus the topological maps they have, and how in the South China Sea there are so many subs around there, and it's such a heavily populated area that the near field detection usually isn't used because it's actually detectable at twice the range you get from it. So if you can look out 5,000 yards with it, it means someone can detect you 10,000 yards away. So it's not something you want to use in a populated space. And so it's very possible that they just they were using accelerometer map data, and they got skewed a little bit, and they hit something they weren't supposed to. At the same time, this is not any submarine. This is a Seawolf class submarine. Now, we should have ended up with a bunch of these, but because of budget cuts, we only ended up with 3. So this is one of the 3 most advanced, incredible submarines yet built by man. I mean, these are amazing devices with amazing capabilities. The fact that it just ran into something is disturbing. And what's interesting is that the Chinese government is also very interested in what they hit, and is asking through formal lines of communication a formal report on what they hit. Everyone's quite curious. I'm hoping it was something organic, but it could be something UFO-ish too. I mean, and it could just be a big giant rock that moved, I guess. I don't know. I will say this: I'm very sorry for the sub commander. I don't think his command will survive this event.
Probably not. I mean, but considering the facts, they're in a hostile territory between Taiwan and China. They're obviously in silent power, going through there and trying to be as quiet as they possibly can, damn near invisible. I mean, the chances of something happening to this, and looking at the photograph of the damage caused to this, it's amazing this submarine didn't sink. I mean, literally about 2/3 of the front end has been ripped off.
That's one thing I'm going to go dig into. I want to find out, is that really, because I didn't think that thing was up on dry dock yet. So I'm curious, is that really the actual picture of that submarine? Because that damage that's in that picture, that's extensive. I mean, that is, boy, man. Whatever they hit, I'd like to see it. I'd like to see how the other guy looks.
Oh, man. Well, John, great job as per usual. As we got to get on to the news, and we'll talk to you in a couple nights' time. And you can hang on out as well. Here we go with the news. Shirky Poo's got us ready. Shirky Poo's news has us all ready for tonight. We're going to stick with UFOs, where apparently it's not politically correct to call aliens anymore. No, the newcomer to the field, Demi Lovato, has declared the term alien is offensive to extraterrestrials. You heard it right. Lovato, who came out as non-binary in May and uses them and they pronouns, claims it is a derogatory term and that ETs should be used instead. I think we have to stop calling them aliens because aliens is a derogatory term for anything, Lovato said. That's why I like to call them ETs. So yeah, there's a little tidbit, a little information that I learned, she stated. However, it is unclear whether or where Lovato gleaned the little information from. The star is currently promoting her new Unidentified with Demi Lovato, where the singer takes a trip into the search for UFOs on Peacock channel. However, Lovato might want to speak to bosses at Peacock, as in the official description of the show, they refer to them as aliens. The editor of the interview even put a note stating, as per Demi's guidance, we have refrained from using the A word in this article, as it is an offensive term, no matter who you're directing it at. Lovato brought up the term being offensive when asked what some of the biggest misconceptions about aliens are. The singer replied, I think the ones that bother me are that they are harmful or that they'll come and take over the planet. Sounds like she's been around too much Stephen Greer lately. They also appeared on the Kylie and Jackie O show last month to speak about their new 4-part docuseries. During the interview, the host asked Demi for their thoughts on what extraterrestrial life might be like, to which they responded, I believe that they're peaceful beings. I know that they would be friendly. Well, I don't know that. Ended with a giggle. And finally tonight, an Ontario family's home security camera was rolling when a bear decided to visit their front porch and steal a large pumpkin, and found the task more difficult than it had expected. Ashley Rose of Sudbury said that they had just finished putting up the fall decorations on her front porch when the home had a late-night visit from a hungry bear. LaRose said the bear had already eaten a couple of smaller pumpkins when it attempted to walk off with the larger one. The security cameras show the bear attempting unsuccessfully to carry the pumpkin in its paws before switching to carrying the gourd within its mouth. That bear's going to get that pumpkin. Oh, yeah. Here's your thought of the day. What's your favorite Halloween memory? Start off with Nick on Twitter. Egg fights. Best one, throw an egg 53 feet through the air, hitting this girl in the back of the head as she was running. Thoreau. The time I worked as an alien in a haunted maze, it made a lady pee her pants. Top 5 memories of all time. 13 ballads. Keeping the lights on and then off to keep the neighbors' hood ghouls from soaping up the windows on the big living room window. All right. Moving forward. Magnus. Football game at our local high school. Costume party. I got to spend time with my first girlfriend. Then we watched Donnie Darko at my house and fell asleep. Alex, that one time we were at McDonald's in Halloween and this kid showed up dressed as Columbus and he asked for 12 White Castle burgers. That was so method. Thank you to everybody participating in the Thought of the Dave. We really do appreciate it. Thank you to Shirky Poo for the news, John Hudson for the UFO report, and Spooky Story Tales from Alyson Ford. We got Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal rocking in the background with Little Brother is Watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at home, at work, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone in our chat rooms tonight. YouTube, LGAB, Revolution Radio, Twitch, Facebook, Twitter, and wherever else you may be chatting. It's just good to chat about this. Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited. Thank you so much for choosing to share your evening with us, because together, my friends, we're watching. We own the night. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Yes, the Woo train has docked for the night. But soon, my friends, we shall ride again. Your seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, we've got room for them too. Good night.